Okay, so I'm a little late to the party, I'll admit. There's no way I'm gonna get through all three God of War games before Ascension comes out on March 12th. Especially since Revengeance is here and the footage is already in my hard drive. But that doesn't mean I can't get started now, right? Better late than never. So, here we go with the original God of War.
Wow, oh wow, I cannot believe that I am finally stepping into this series. It's something I've looked at for a few years now, yet only now am I actually starting this series. Part of this is the upcoming release of God of War Ascension, but the other part is, honestly, I couldn't stem my curiosity anymore. 2005 was an outstanding year for games, and this stood out enough to be named Game of the Year by IGN. That got my attention. But more importantly, just the influence this game has had on its genre and the overall industry is that of which few games can claim. This game has been praised, copied, and expanded into a saga. This is where it all began. So let's do this. Our main character in our endeavors is Kratos, a servant to the Greek gods. He's certainly a departure from most video game protagonists, being a violent, miserable guy, like the antithesis of Nathan Drake. The first scene of the game is a flash forward of him committing suicide. You see, Kratos was a ruthless general in his day, very power-hungry. To accentuate his power, he makes a deal with the god of war, Ares. But then things begin to slide in his life. I'm not going to spoil it, as his backstory is given gradually as you progress, which was a good decision by the writers. Let's just say that Kratos loses what little humanity he had left. As well as his suntan. Hell, I'd be pissed about that too. He blames it all on Ares, although I'd say Kratos is a bit more to blame for just being an idiot. And your overall mission in this game is to kill the god of war. Athena instructs you to kill Ares, a god. I've been asked to do that a couple times, it's no big deal. But don't expect us to waltz up to Ares and shove a lightning bolt up his no-no place. It's a bit of a complex process, but I won't go into it yet. Overall, while I couldn't feel sorry for Kratos as much as the game wanted me to, he's still a complex character and a good vehicle for a well-told story. I will admit that I don't quite understand why Zeus or Athena aren't able to take out Ares or won't take out Ares, but I guess they wanted a good show and they had Kratos to do it. I complain, but then we wouldn't have our badass action game with our badass action hero voiced by Stewie Griffin. And I'm not kidding, listen to a little side-by-side comparison with a little pitch change.
You! I must get across! Release the lever! Extend the bridge!
No! I won't let them get me. They won't get across. These monsters, they'll tear me apart!
Damn you, vile woman! You've impeded my work since the day I escaped from your wretched womb.
So what is God of War exactly? Well, it's probably the most influential hack-and-slash game since Devil May Cry. With that said, is it any good? Well, when the game starts, we immediately get thrown into a large enemy horde and are told to get chopping. It's a pretty good start to the game, and I like how it stuck to what I love about these kinds of games, smooth combat, and making high combos feels like a serious accomplishment. With that said, I had been mostly mashing the square button, and I was slightly disappointed by both the lack of variety in the combos and the lack of variety in the enemies. So I strolled down the next hallway, waiting for the game to prove itself when Hydra! 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 Kill it! Stop the time!
And it's all uphill from there, people.
What was it I said earlier? Lack of variety in combos and no interesting enemies? As if. Keep upgrading those Blades of Chaos and you'll have every combo imaginable at your fingertips, people. What's impressive is that A, these combos are all really cool and satisfying to look at, and B, you remember them. Obviously, you won't remember every single one, but your list of favorites will be pretty large, because all of these combos are really useful. My personal favorites are L1 and square, and square, triangle. Then there's the magic attacks the gods will give you as you stroll on by in your epic quest. Pro tip, upon maxing out the upgrades for the Blades of Chaos, upgrade the Electrical Poseidon attack and definitely Hades' army. Once that thing's fully upgraded, the game might as well be over. But hey, odds are you'll pretty much be at the end of the game by the time it's all the way upgraded, which shows very good balancing. Speaking of balancing, your enemies are definitely forces to be reckoned with. With the exception of those generic little shits you saw in the boat level, all the enemies are quite ferocious and fun to fight. From Medusas, to giant ogres, to three-headed dogs that breathe fire, these adversaries are certainly sight to behold. Overall, the combat is fantastic. It's smooth, fast-paced, intuitively controlled, challenging, varied, it's a blast. But this game does actually have even more to it. I was surprised to find that the puzzles were actually really good. There's quite a few segments where you really need to think outside the box. Sometimes the puzzles require critical thinking, sometimes they require speed and timing, and a lot of them can have a huge scope to them. I usually came out of these puzzles feeling like a genius, and it's hard to ask for more than that. Then we have platforming. It's not exactly the best this game has to offer, but it's still pretty fun. From time to time, the camera can get in the way, but it's not bad at all. With that said, the level design can be pretty clever, but nothing too memorable. Ow! As I was saying, the platforming overall isn't what I would call... Gah! Look, it's just a little overwhelming. Jesus Christ! Ow!
This climbing section's brutal. I mean, the pillars move too fast, Kratos moves too slow, and the collision detection is just screwed up. God! I can't do this!
You don't fear death. You think this makes you stronger.
Who are you?
Why are games easier? Why have your skills diminished over the years? Do you know what the advantage the old school gamers had? It was the advantage that they could have lost all their lives at any time and start over again at World War I.
But I do fear death. I fear leaving my subscribers without a review. I don't want them to wait longer than they have to.
Then make Decline Boy as the 80s kids did, without the memory card, without saving your progress, without the safety.
Okay, I get it.
Pasta, pasta, fish, fish, 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 pasta. Yeah!
Who are you guys? Get out! Get out!
I can definitely say that this is a list of nitpicks, but they did still irk me slightly. First, given the game's epic nature, I was surprised how few bosses there were. There was the Hydra at the beginning, a completely out of nowhere fight with a Minotaur, and the final battle with Ares. That's it, which is a huge disappointment because these three fights were fantastic, easily the highlights of the game. I guess it seems petty to criticize a game for what it doesn't have, especially being the first in the series, but that's okay, I have an even dumber complaint. This is gonna sound like nothing, but I swear to God, you realize how long it takes to get Pandora's box? I felt like it was 75% of the game. Upon actually looking at the footage and whipping out the calculator, I found it was only a little more than half, but still, to me, it shows how little this quest actually was. I just feel this game focused way too much on Pandora's box, and it kinda drags down the pace for me. Don't get me wrong, Pandora's Temple does feature some incredibly creative sections, and the gameplay technically doesn't suffer, and it's satisfying to slowly solve each section of the temple until you finally got the box. But when I think back on this game, it feels as though the game was only getting started when it entered the temple, yet was nearing the finale when I finally had Pandora's box. It's a petty criticism, but it bothered me more than it sounds like it should. So what's the word of the day? Epic. I know that word's definition has been completely screwed up over the past 10 years, but I mean, I can't think of another word to describe this incredibly challenging and riveting title. I mean, wow, the fighting is smooth and addicting with the Blades of Chaos being one of the coolest sets of weapons I've ever seen. packaged with it, we have solid puzzles and platforming, and the gameplay is cemented as fantastic. The level design is terrific, being linear, but very encouraging for exploration and finding hidden goodies. Then there's the presentation. Great animation, great character designs. Look at Kratos in this cutscene. It's practically PS3 level. Sure, it's pre-rendered, but this is still impressive, especially for the PS2. The sound direction is spot on, with terrific voice acting and one of the most badass video game soundtracks ever. This is just a complete package, outstanding from start to finish. I highly recommend this game. I cannot wait to play God of War 2.